Smooth inhale, rolling into smooth exhale. What does it feel like when you expand on the inhale? Where do you sense the inhale? What are the sensations of the exhale? This is the practice of svadhyaya, self-study. The practice of pratyahara, turning your gaze inward. Now let your concentrated awareness rest at your heart. Notice the sensations around your heart center. Notice if there are any feelings, emotions associated with these sensations. Can you hold whatever you find with compassion and loving kindness? And then imagine that this heart center is a doorway. And you open it and you step through. And you're in a wide open mountain meadow. And you begin to walk through the meadow under a blue sky. You hear birds chirping. You feel a gentle breeze. And you hear a stream in the distance and you walk towards it. And sitting beside the stream is your wisest self. She looks up, or he looks up and smiles at you in greeting and stands and welcomes you into a warm embrace. And has wishes of loving kindness, prayers of loving kindness for you. May you be well, mind, body, heart, and spirit. May you be at peace. May you be safe from inner and outer dangers. May you be truly happy and full of joy. May you be and feel held in loving kindness. And as you stand there in this embrace, perhaps you hear other prayers just for you, coming from your wisest self. Holding you lovingly. And then your wisest self releases the embrace. You smile at each other. And your wisest self sits back down next to the stream. And you walk back through the meadow, out the door of your heart, and into your seat. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we carry this loving kindness with us into our practice and into the rest of our day. Namaste. And let's come to standing. Place one hand on your heart center, and the back of your other hand on your sacrum. And you breathe into both hands at a diagonal, breathing back your sacrum and forward your sternum. Can you feel how the breath can expand and contract you? Breathing into both hands at the diagonal, lifting your heart center, breathing back into your low back and pelvis. And then release your arms and breathe into the front belly and that area between your shoulder blades on the back body. Again, breathing at a diagonal. Finding different ways to open your body three-dimensionally. Breathing into the back of the heart and the belly and stretching across the diagonal. And then release that and fill the whole torso from pelvic floor to shoulder girdle. Notice if your awareness is continuing to expand. And gently begin to shake the hands. Really try to release the bones. Release the bones of the forearm. Let the knees bounce. Release the humerus bone away from the shoulder girdle. Let the hands bounce out to the side. Let them bounce back down. Out to the side. And down. Releasing tension from the body. And then roll one shoulder up and down the back, and the other shoulder up and down the back. Feel into stretching in behind the shoulder blade. We want fluidity in our motion. So if you feel tightness, we breathe into it and hold it lovingly. Aha, yes, I see you're tight there. I'm stretching you. I hope this feels good. Lift both shoulders. Release both shoulders. Lift and release and float your arms to a T, floating the left palm up and the right thumb under. Let your arms do the snake dance back and forth with your breath. Feel the humerus bone turning in the rotator cuff. Feel the back ribs spread away from the spine, creating space for our heart openers today. And then release your arms and stretch them skyward. Really reach for the sky, grounding the feet. Reach each finger and thumb. Lift the low rib ring away from the pelvis. Really stretch the waistline. Keep that low rib ring lifted as the arms float back down to your sides. And notice you've probably grown an inch. Pause, let the shoulder girdle relax, keeping the rib ring lifted. And bring your hands up, back behind your head, thumbs at the base of the skull, fingers interlaced. Lift your elbows skyward. They're wrapping around the head right now. They're not open wide. Lift the elbows skyward. Rest the head back. Traction the neck with the skull. And lean back as far as is comfortable for you, grounding your heels and your tailbone and your low back ribs back. Let the back bend come in the upper chest, the thoracic cavity. As you ground your feet, feel the inner arches lifting. And if your front neck flexors are strong, you can release your arms beside your ears and stretch from your feet through your fingertips. And then exhale, hands to the heart. Release into your mountain pose. And let's pick up our ball. If you don't have a ball, you can come to a cobra just against the wall. Bring your ball to your wall. And standing on the four corners of your feet, lift your toes, lift your arches. Lift the front triangle of the pelvic floor. Open across your collarbones as you ground the tailbone and rest the low back ribs back. And then inhale. Roll the ball up the wall with your heart opening. If you don't have a ball, isometrically pull down with your hands and lift your heart. Tailbone grounding. Front of the pelvic floor lifting. Navel in and up. Bandha's active. Open the heart away from the wall. Front neck flexors active and strong, so the back of the neck is long. We're not jutting the chin skyward. And then exhale, release. Turn around and place the ball between your shoulder blades. Feet beneath you. Arms opening out to the sides. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Let your humerus bones rest back. Tailbone grounding. Draw energy up your calves, through your knees, down your shins. Ground from the pelvis down, and then from the pelvis, lift up. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha. Open your heart skyward, shoulder blades lifting your rib cage. Fluid breath. Make sure the hinge isn't coming just at your thoracic lumbar junction where your rib cage meets your lumbar spine, but that you're opening up through the chest, that you're stretching the spine of the chest open. And then exhale, release. Stand beside your wall and reach one arm up the wall. Your feet can be about 6, 8, 10 inches away from the wall. Reach the one arm up the wall. Stretch tall and long. But don't collapse the other side rib cage. Still lift it, active. And then with your hip resting against the wall, perhaps you side bend a little, perhaps you side bend more into the center of the room. No bone on bone compression for those with osteoporosis. But those without it, that bone on bone compression can help you keep bone density. Ground through the four corners of both feet and exhale back up. And then turn around, lifting the other side arm up the wall. Rest your hip against the wall. Lengthen both side bodies. And then gently tilt away from the wall. Lengthen from your four corners of your feet through your fingertips. Fluid breath. And then come back up and release into your mountain pose. Back on your mat. Feel your mountain. Recognize sensations along your spine and at your heart center. And then let's reach for our chair. Let's first take a high Virabidrasana I. So stepping back from your chair, step one foot up. Remember, you don't need your heels on a tightrope. You want your heels aligning back up the legs to the sit bones. The back foot slightly turned out. And we lunge forward over the front foot and we develop a long line in the spine. So we're straight right here. We lift the front triangle of the pelvic floor, navel comes in and up, And we reach the arms up. Now, if you have your chair against a wall, remember you can press your fingertips into the wall. That you don't have to do that, but make sure your chair isn't going to slide out from under you. It's on a sticky mat. Lift the back foot arch, inner arch up. Lift the front of the pelvic floor, navel in and up, and then float yourself up. Pelvis is stable and strong as you press down into the feet. Lift the upper body through the pelvic floor along the spine and come into your standing high warrior one. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Your arms can be wide. Let your arms be where it's most comfortable in your shoulders, but still you can extend the side bodies, extend the arms. And then exhale, hands to the heart, step back, pause in mountain pose. Feel how the body changes with each asana, with each side. Turn the standing back foot out slightly, step the other foot onto your chair, and lunge forward. In this pose, the knee can come in front of the ankle because the knee is higher than the hip. Lift your low rib ring. Lengthen through your rib cage and ground the feet. And as you do, lift the heart center skyward. If you'd like to interlace your fingers, bring the thumbs to the base of the skull and rest the head back. This might be a better pose for some of you because your neck doesn't have to overwork. If you'd like, then you could also unfurl your arms after you've set the head. Fluid breath. And then exhale, release back and pause. Okay, let's begin some sun salutations now. If you'd like a blanket when you come into your low lunge, you can draw that in. And inhale, reach for the sky. Exhale, bend your knees over your second metatarsals, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Fluid breath into the whole circumference of your ribcage and torso. Hands come down to the seat, heart lifts, inhale, open the spine. Exhale, step one leg back, you choose which. Come to your fingertips on your prop, whether it's blocks or the seat of a chair, and hollow your groin skyward, the back leg groin. So we don't rest and overstretch these back leg ligaments. We don't compress the SI joints by dropping one hip. We hug the hips towards midline. We lift the pelvic floor, navel in and up, ground from the pelvis into the feet, and then lift the navel in and up, lift the low back ribs, and come into your crescent pose. Or you can lower the heel and come into your Virabidrasana I. Can you lift the low ribs away from the pelvis? Open the heart skyward and exhale. Hands back down to your prop, step back, plank. Pause here with your breath, building your body's awareness that it needs bone density in the arms, in the hands. Navel lifts in and up, long spine all the way up into the skull. Let the neck be long. And you can stay here, or you can come into your upward dog. So I'm trying it again, Terry, on my toes. And actually with the chair, it feels pretty good for me. You may release your toes and come onto the flats of your feet as well. And then exhale, navel rolls back, hips roll back, knees bend, come into your downward dog. Stretch back away from the chair, breathe space in between the vertebrae. Invite in that mountain meadow. Invite in the wide open sky, the sound of the stream and birds singing. As you breathe deep into your torso, from your wisest self, can you make wishes, prayers for your own well-being? May I be at ease. May I be filled with joy and truly happy. And then exhale, come up, step your next leg forward, grounding your feet, come to fingertips. And as you're ready, stable in the lower body, lift the upper body. It's like you're a star, pulsing energy down each leg into the floor, pulsing energy up the spine, out each fingertip. Shine out of the back hamstring. Fluid breath, every cell pulsing in the body. Breathe into the heart center. This practice an act of loving kindness for ourselves. And then exhale, hands come down to your prop, step back plank. Fluid breath. You can stay here or roll forward to upward dog. You can stay, well, you don't want to stay there. Everybody roll back and meet in downward dog. Again, stretch away from the chair. Take your pelvis way back. Fluid breath. Stretch your waistline by taking the pelvis away from the ribs. And then step the feet forward, knees bend, float the upper body up, Utkatasana. And reach the hands skyward, grounding the feet, long, spacious spine, perhaps lift into a standing back bend, tailbone grounding. And exhale, hands to the heart, mountain pose. Fluid breath. And inhale, arms rise. Exhale, Utkatasana, fierce pose. We pause here. We come through this pose and make sure our knees are aligning over the second metatarsal so that we don't injure the knee by dropping the knees towards each other. We stay in this pose to strengthen and activate these big muscles in the legs that will help warm up the whole body for our back bends. Breathe into the low back. And then exhale. Hands to your props. Inhale, come to fingertips. Lift the heart. Lengthen the spine, tailbone to top of head. And exhale. Step one leg back. Come in again towards your high lunge. This time, come up and see. Well, let's all lower the back heel and come through Virabidrasana I this time. Inhale, your hands up in front of you. And open your right hand out to the right and around. Stretch wide. Keep the legs stable. And then exhale back to center. Open the left hand out behind you. Just go as far as is comfortable. Lead with the humerus bone, not the wrist. Exhale back to center. And place your fingertips back on your props. And if you need a blanket to support the back knee, bring it in. And lower your knee and release the foot if that's comfortable. Now, if releasing the foot isn't comfortable, you can always put a small blanket roll under the foot. Now, if you're on the chair, you may have to move it forward slightly to come fully into the lunge. Make sure you're hugging your pelvis from the outside towards the midline because we don't want to lose the SI joints here. So some of you will stay right here, pressing down into your props. If you have blocks, draw them back by the hips and press into them. If you're on the chair, press your fingertips down and lift the heart. Some of you will be able to lift both arms skyward. Breathe into lengthening the torso and opening the heart. Some of you will stay here. Some will be able to bring the back leg fingertips to the back leg, the top arm skyward, and open a little bit more of the heart. And then exhale, hands back to your prop. Roll your toe under, step back, plank pose. Fluid breath. Strength. Remember, we don't want to sag in the buttocks, better to lift them a little skyward. You can stay here, or you can roll forward into your upward dog. You can then roll back into downward dog. And step your next leg forward. Lower the back heel. Make sure your heels are aligned with your sit bones so that you have a wide enough stance. And inhale, lift your arms so they're palm to palm in front of you. And exhale, open the right arm out to the side, around, and come back. And open the left arm to the side, around, and come back. And lift the back heel, fingertips to your prop, and lower the back knee. Release the foot. If you'd like to, you can release the front knee a little more forward. You can stay here pressing down onto your chair or onto your blocks, or lift the arms, hips hugging midline, pelvic floor lifts, navel in and up. Perhaps the back leg arm comes down, fingertips touching the hamstrings, and other arm lifts skyward into the back bend. Stop anywhere along the trajectory that's best for you. And then exhale, hands back to your prop. Roll your back toes under, step the front leg back, plank pose. Fluid breath. I hope you feel like, yes, this is warming up my body. You can stay here or come into upward dog. And then exhale back, downward dog. You may have to kick your blanket forward a little or move it out of your way. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. And then step forward, heels aligned with sit bones, second metatarsals parallel, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Bring your hands to your heart. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, make the intention of keeping your legs still, your pelvis still, and twist gently one direction. May be very small for some of you. And keeping the knees still, come back to center. Take a deep inhale and exhale the other way. And inhale back to center. And release your arms and reach for the sky. Uttasana, lift the low rib ring away from the pelvis. Ground your tailbone and heels. And if you'd like, lift the heart as if you were rolling over a bolster or rolling the ball up the wall. Long back of neck. Navel in and up to support your back bend. Exhale back to standing, hands to the heart. Place your hands palms over the heart. Breathe into the heart center. Breathe into your own prayers, wishes of well-being for yourself in this practice. May I have courage to live my life with integrity. May I be kind and compassionate to myself and others. May I be and feel held in loving kindness. Make your own. And then release your hands and come to sit on your chair with your ball or your bolster behind you. And this kind of depends on how active you want to be. If you want a more active practice today, use the ball. If you want a more relaxing practice, use the bolster. And let yourself ground into your sit bones. Make sure that your sit bones are wide and even so that you have a diamond shape at the pelvic floor. Feel into evenness between your pubic bone and your tailbone as well. Take a deep inhale and exhale through pursed lips and lift the front triangle of your pelvic floor. Really feel into not changing the curve of your lumbar spine. And then release. Take a deep, soft, three-dimensional inhale and exhale through pursed lips, lifting the front triangle of the pelvic floor. So this is the new instruction to lift the front triangle of the pelvic floor, because a lot of times when people try to lift the whole pelvic floor, they flatten their back and tuck their tail and hug their sit bones towards each other in effort. So you may still be able to lift the center of the pelvic floor, but make sure it isn't flattening your lumbar curve. Lift the pelvic floor in and up. Now maintain that even as you breathe and draw the navel back towards the spine and up along the front of the spine. Maintain that and breathe into the low back. Let the breath roll from the low back up the back body and then release, keeping your bandhas active. Notice how keeping the bandhas active will help you expand your lung capacity. If you can draw the breath down into the back body. And now release the bandhas, relaxed, three-dimensional inhale. Soft exhale. One more three-dimensional inhale. And exhale through pursed lips, lift the front triangle of your pelvic floor, navel in and up. Maintain those and inhale into the whole back body and the umbrella of your rib cage. Let the umbrella of the rib cage really expand on your inhales. The back body really expand on your inhales, keeping your bandhas. And then release your bandhas and take an easy three-dimensional inhale. Notice how this is not easy work. This is really activating your inner musculature. Bring your hands to interlace the fingers, the base of the skull, place your thumbs. Elbows come forward. Ground through your sit bones, pubic bone and tailbone even. On your next exhale, lift the front triangle of the pelvic floor. Draw the navel in and up. Ground the tailbone and rest the head into your hands, lifting the elbows, a seated back bend. Fluid breath. Continue to traction the head, keep the neck long, and release the shoulders away from the head. Breathe into rolling yourself over your ball or your bolster. And then exhale back up and release. And open your arms wide and settle back onto your ball or bolster. Long spine. Rest back. Let the wings of your arms really open, stretching this outer chest, stretching the pectoralis minor muscle. Breathe into that side chest tissue. Expand yourself wide. And then exhale or release. Come up to sitting and take one leg under the chair. Now remember, you can bring blocks in to rest your hands on. I'll model that. Or you can hold on to the arms of the chair if you're on a folding chair. If you're on a high back chair and you don't have arms, you may need something to put your hands on. You could put something across behind you like a blanket. So if you're on the blocks, the fingers come over the front, the elbows try to come around back, and you lift the heart here. Elbows need to be able to bend. This will be a great chest opener on the side chests. If you don't want to use the blocks, the arms can come to the side angle of the chair. If you have that, you can come to your fingertips on the chair seat or this metacarpal arch to be a little higher, or you can come down to your palms. Lift the heart and open into this half camel pose. One-legged ustrasana. Use your arms to lift the shoulder blades to help lift the heart skyward. And let the breath massage the tissue open. And then exhale, release back up. And take the other leg back. Those of you that are more open, as you come into your position, you could bring your sit bones off the front of the chair. Really hold yourself strong with the arms. Your buttocks is still on the chair, just not your sit bones, so that you can reach down a little more through the lengthening knee towards the floor. Stay on the four corners of your standing foot. Use that to help lift. Use the arms to help lift the heart. Fluid breath. And then exhale, release. Pause in your seated position. Notice any changes occurring in the body. Make sure that you're being gentle enough with yourself, because you can always go back to the previous work we were doing. Okay, so remember that as we come down now to take a camel pose. So we'll bring the blanket in front of us. If camel doesn't work on your knees, remember you can come back to the wall and just as easily do your camel here standing, really lifting this low rib ring, opening the heart skyward. You can do that, or come to your hips right in front of your chair. Pressing down with your hands, your palms, or your fingertips. You'll lift the heart. Now, I'd like you to also have your bolster or a couple blankets nearby or your blocks so that in the next one you can use it over your legs. Okay. So we're here. We press down the hands. We lengthen through from the pelvis through to the knees and shins. Tailbone grounds, pubic bone lifts, navel comes in and up, and we press down onto the chair and lift the heart. Find your shoulder blades behind you and have them lift the heart. Pressing down with the hands, lengthen the side bodies. Now, some of you will stay here. Some can let the arms float off and open out like wings. Keep the shoulder blades lifting under you, the tailbone grounding, the low back rib ring resting back. Fluid breath. And then release. And let yourself sit back towards your heels if that's available to you. Or just come onto your forearms and do a little mini cat and cow. Either one would be fine, like this. Or like this. You could do it on the wall at half dog. And then come up again. And if you want to go farther, bring the bolster over your legs or the blocks in beside your legs. You may want to bring the bolster. My bolster's a little higher this direction, and I want it higher the first time. You can also roll your toes under to lift your heels to bring the bolster even higher. Okay. We ground down into the legs, tailbone grounds, pelvic floor lifts, navel in and up, and we open the chest skyward, shoulder blades lifting up under the rib cage. Fluid breath, lengthening the side bodies. Hollowing the groins back, lifting shoulder blades under the rib cage, lifting the heart. Make sure your front neck flexors are working to help hold the back of the neck long. And then exhale, release. Let yourself sit back onto your bolster, or come forward into a few cats and cows. Fluid breath. And if you'd like to take one more, come up one last time. If it's too much on your knees, come to the wall and do a cobra at the wall with your ball. Inhale, ground the legs, ground the tailbone, lift the pubic bone, lift the pelvic floor. Find that length up the spine so you won't injure your back. You're lifting that low rib ring. And then come back into your ustrasana, heart opening, fluid breath. And then grounding into the legs, navel in and up, come back out and take a seat or a few cows and cats. Feel into how your body continues to change. Okay, so you can go into any of these previous poses, or if you have a chair that will work, we can do a chair back bend. So I'm going to show you that. This would mean you have to take your chair near a wall and place your bolster on your chair. Now, some people, like Iyengar students, would have done this without anything over the back of their chair. Just a lot harder that way. So if you want to do this, make sure your chair's on a sticky mat and just watch for a second if you haven't seen this recently. You'll place your feet onto the bars of the chair. This is essential. If you don't do that, your chair will tip backwards, okay? So you're weighting the chair down with your feet. Now the first step is easy, and most people may be able to do it holding on to the arms of the chair. We lift back, and we just rest the back as we lift the pelvis. Okay, if you don't have a bolster and you want to feel that same action, you can bring your hands to the chair, walk your feet out in front, and lift your pelvis here. It's a good shoulder opener, good heart opener. Okay, so you could do that pose if you don't have the bolster. If you have the bolster, make sure you're close enough to the wall, not far. Be closer first because you can always lift back and walk away. You place your feet on the bars of the chair and you really ground them. And the next step would be to lift the pelvis, roll back over the chair, find your balance, and take one arm to the wall. And take the other arm to the wall. And perhaps walk the arms down the wall. Pressing into the wall can help you really open the shoulders and spine, open the back bend. Press your feet into the legs and breathe into the whole length of the spine. So you're coming into your full back bend. Virabidrasana, fluid breath. And then when you've had enough, let yourself roll out and pause in your seat. Fluid breath. And then if you'd like one more, you can place your feet when you're ready. Hold on to your arms of your chair. Some of you may need to lift the pelvis a little to get up high enough. Some of you may need to scoot your pelvis out on the chair seat to get your back in a good, comfortable position. So play a little bit with where this works best in your body. Make sure you stay stable and feel safe as you bring your arms to the wall. Fluid breath, pressing hands into the wall, feet into the legs of the chair to stay stable. Come back to that three-dimensional breath. Good. Beautiful. And then exhale, release. Okay, pause in your seat for a moment. This is big heart opening work, everyone. The physical body and the emotional body are very interrelated. So if you feel like your emotions begin to flow today, it might be partly because you've released this tissue around the heart center. Fluid breath. We also release muscles along the neck when we lengthen like that and strengthen here. You may release your voice. Okay, let's bring it down now to the floor with a bolster on the floor or a double blanket pile and a block for underneath your forehead. Okay, this is our tried and true long time practice of our Chataranga-salambasana series. We bring the front ribs to the bolster, but our chest and breasts can hang out over the front of the bolster, but we want those low ribs supported by the bolster. It will help us find healthy planks. We bring the forehead to the block. Now your elbows are under your shoulders, forearms into the floor, toes turned under if you can, tailbone reaching for your heels. Let the hot air, the helium balloon lift under your pelvis, navel, and low ribs and press into the forearms to lift off. So here again, we're working on that upper body bone density. We're working on our core strength. Breathe into holding the plank. Remember, you don't have to totally lift up off your prop. If you're on the prop, but you're moving in the direction of lifting, that's really good work. And then release your toes. Isometrically draw the arms back and the heart through. Long neck. So you can stay with that series, or you can curl your toes under again. Bring your hands under your shoulders, fingers forward. Humerus bone parallel to the torso. We don't splay the elbows. And again, find that helium balloon under your pelvis, navel, and low ribs. Tailbone towards heels and almost lift up off your prop. Remember, better to have the butt lifted higher than to sag. The bolster should help you avoid that. And then release. Toes can release back behind you. Isometrically pull the hands back towards the hips and roll up into your cobra. As you come back down, lengthen the spine even more. Now, float your hands just gently off the floor. Keeping them there, broaden across your collarbones. Find your shoulder blades on the back ribs. Ground your pubic bone and roll up again. Now, using the strength of your back to roll up. Keep the back of the neck long and roll back down. One more time, do either one of those. Hands on the floor, really lifting and lengthening you, or hands off the floor, strengthening the back. And then roll back down. Bring your hands down beside your hips, palms down, thumbs out. Pubic bone grounds, tailbone reaches for the heels, and begin to float the legs up, the heart up, the neck crease up, the shoulders up. Remember, the wrists don't lift as high as the shoulders. Lengthen from heels to top of head. Let your body smile. Bring the arms like wings out to the sides. That may be enough for some of you. Some may want to bring the arms alongside the ears, reaching from fingertips to toes. Wherever you are along the way is okay. And lower back down and rest. And turn your toes under one more time. And either take a low plank or a chaturanga, shoulder blades on the back. Pressing down, find your helium balloons, tailbone towards heels, lift. And release. Hands by your hips, float up one more time. Lifting and lengthening from the top of the head to the heels, Make a smile of your body. Arms can stay back or come like wings or come alongside the ears. And then release and roll back into a supported child's pose. Fluid breath. If being on your knees for child's pose doesn't feel good, then let yourself roll over onto your back and let the legs and arms wrap around the bolster. And just rest. Fluid breath. Really rest into the hug of gravity. If you've been on one cheek, switch sides. If you've been on one cheek, switch sides. And then gently roll yourselves up. And come to a seat on your bolster or your blanket pile or your chair, okay? So it depends on how low you want to come. We're going to come into a simple forward fold, an Uttanasana Konasana. So if you're on a bolster, you may want a little support under your knees. You can be near the floor if you like. I'm just going to show it to you on a bolster. So I'm just putting, you could have little couch pillows to put under your knees. Or I just put blanket rolls under. And this is most important if you're a hyperextender. Now, for some of you, being on this may not be high enough for you to have your natural lumbar curve. If that's the case, come into the pose that we do frequently, where we're sitting on the chair with our legs wide, okay? And you're coming down to hands on the blocks. So I want you to find the pose that's best for you, but I want to offer this as an alternative for people who want a little bit more. So you're on your bolster, knees supported so they don't hyperextend, but actually the pressure into the blanket roll will help you activate this medial quad, and that is really good for tracking of your kneecap. So this is actually a good exercise for those of you who are able to get onto the floor to kind of press the knees back. If you're on a chair, the same exercise is to turn your foot out slightly and lift the leg so that you activate this medial quad. So go ahead and try that wherever you are. You're either pressing the knees back into your support. If you're on the floor, you're pressing them just directly into the floor. Or you're lifting the leg at the knee and waking up that inner quad. Just a little side note on knees. I just did a private with someone on knees. Lift the front of your pelvic floor, lengthen up the front of the spine. Place your hands on your hips. Lift your pelvis and hinge yourself forward. Whether you're on the chair or on the floor, you can have your blocks and bring them forward. You may come forward enough that you could come down to the blocks and use some support. But what I want you to really have is that long spine. So we're not trying so hard to get to the floor. This is what you'll see in a lot of yoga classes and a lot of stretch classes. Like my kids used to do this in karate and it drove me nuts. You see people doing this. That is just designed to take your discs back, the jelly filling of your discs back to bulge your discs. We need our natural lumbar curve, and then we hinge forward. It isn't this, because this is practicing kyphosis and spinal disc injury. Long spine, hinge at the hips. And then support yourself in whatever way is necessary to keep that long spine. So if I come up onto blocks here, I can press down into the blocks and lengthen my spine. If you're on a chair and your legs are wide, then you come hinging forward, you press down onto your femur bones and you lengthen the spine. And you just keep hinging forward at the hips. Then maybe you come to a little coffee table with your hands and you press down and lengthen the spine. Then you come to your blocks. So you're just really honest with yourself about how far you can hinge with your natural lumbar curve intact. And don't be overly jealous of those of us that can hinge all the way, because that means our ligaments are really loose, which can lead to lots of other issues. Fluid breath. And then release back upright. And bring your legs back in. Okay. Let's come to lying on our backs on the floor. Please have your blankets, pillows, eye pillows, sandbags that you might want for your Shavasana. But before we come into Shavasana, let's come into a bridge that's supported by our bolster. So we'll lay back and lift the pelvis. So we did a lot of heart opening upper spinal work already. Now we're going to do a little bit more on the lower end of the back bend. Feet on the floor, pelvis on the bolster. Long spine. Fluid breath. To really open the heart and open the whole of the spine, we also need to open through the pelvis. So let's draw one knee in towards the chest and let the other leg lengthen out over the bolster. Some people's heel may touch, some people may not. Try not to hitch the bent knee leg that's held into the chest. Hitch that hip up towards your armpit. Try to keep your pelvis pretty centered on your bolster. Fluid breath. Now this is a great exercise here because on one side you're compressing the digestive tract. You're drawing the leg in. You're kind of squeezing that side of the body. And on the other side, you're lengthening the organs, lengthening the intestines, creating a little more space, opening the fascia of the hip joint. And then release the knee in towards the chest to the floor, walk the long leg in and switch sides. Feel how now you've released the side you were compressing and you're compressing the side that was long. This is kind of a compress and release, which we use a lot in yoga to help move the fluids of the body. Fluid breath. Breathe right into the abdomen, to both the lengthened side and the squeezed side. And then release the leg held into the chest. Draw in the other foot and pause in your bridge. If you feel at all any tension in the low back, come to the balls of your feet, lift your pelvis, take your tailbone towards your knees, lay your sacrum back down, lift your shoulders, lengthen the spine back out. Fluid breath. Now float one leg up to your tabletop. Activate your square and float the other leg up. Lift your feet skyward. Let your knees come towards your heart center. Now we're in an inversion, inviting the blood and lymph to flow from the feet back towards the heart, back into the torso, the lymph back towards the nodes. Fluid breath. Three-dimensional breath. Easy breath. Not straining, inviting. You can stay here or let the femur bones come closer and closer to the torso. You can just pause there, breathing again into the compression. This is now an upside down forward fold, Paschimottanasana. Supta Paschimottanasana. Supta means upside down. You can take your legs long, or you can let the knees stay bent. So don't force. We're coming into the more restorative end of the practice. So just come where gravity can help you open things. Don't try to force a stretch. Fluid, three-dimensional breath lets you know you're on the right track. You can open the legs wide if you like, and now you're in a wide-legged forward fold again. Notice any difference in your hips side to side. Just noting the difference. Not because one side is quote-unquote bad, but just that there might be more tension. There might have been an injury or a surgery. Exhale. Let your feet come back towards each other. Let your legs come back up towards the sky. It's fine for the knees to be bent towards the chest. Find the position of most ease. On the exhales, can you relax a little more deeply into the hug of gravity? Can you exhale fully? Again, we don't strain to force the exhale, but we invite a full exhale. See if the scalp can relax, the forehead, the eyes, the face. See if the jaw can relax, the neck and the shoulders. And you relax down the arms into the hands. Relax the front body onto the back body. And then bending the knees, float one foot back to the floor and then the other. Press your bolster towards your knees so that your feet can land on the bolster. If you don't have a bolster, place a block under each foot. And inhale, nothing under your head. Lift your pelvis. And exhale, roll down one vertebrae at a time. Try to release each vertebrae towards the mat. Heart openers should help us create a more fluid spine. Inhale into your natural lumbar curve. Exhale, flatten the low back, peel the spine off the mat. We want to be able to move each section of the spine independently. So feel and notice if some areas are moving in chunks, you're not alone. That happens to lots of people. We want to come back to fluidity, so we notice. We peel the sacrum off and one vertebrae at a time. When we get to the top, we take a deep inhale, and then we exhale the movement. You don't have to be going at my pace, go at your own. Just try to release each vertebrae to the mat. Pause for an inhale when you're at the bottom. Natural lumbar curve. Exhale, peel the spine off the mat. Inhaling at the top and exhaling the smooth release. And come back in to rest. If you have a bolster, you can keep your feet on the bolster. If not, you can bring your feet to the floor. Take your feet as wide as your mat. And if it's comfortable, bring your arms overhead. If not, take them wide in a T and take your knees to the left. Stretch out through the right knee. And if your arms overhead, through the right arm. On the exhales, wherever you are, release into the twist. If you're open into a T with your arms, your head can turn to look out over the back arm. Just again, remember with osteoporosis, you don't want those cervical vertebrae pressing really hard onto one another. So stop the twist before that happens. Really try to rest into the position on the exhales. For a lot of people, this internal rotation of the back leg is a challenge. You could put a little cushion under the knee. Let the breath help stretch you open. And then exhale back to center and take your knees the other way. Inhale, length down the leg, up the arm, up the side body. Or inhale into the twist, resting the head to look out over the back end. Notice if there's a difference side to side. Noticing with loving kindness, not with criticism. And then let your head come back to center, your knees come back to center, and rest your knees over your bolster. If you have a sandbag and you'd like that for your Shavasana, you can bring the sandbag in over your pelvis. And if you miss the feeling of sandbags in your local, I have them now at the Moves Fitness Studio. And on June 21st, we'll be having a restorative class. If you'd like a pillow, bring that in. If you have an eye pillow, bring that in. Oh, I had mine. Oh, there it is. And if you really have your heart set on a different restorative, take that restorative, please. If you need blankets to be warm, bring a blanket in. Socks, a sweater, whatever you need. Tuck yourself in with love, like you would a small child. Offer yourself that much nurturing. For me, lately, I've liked my feet up on the bolster and my knees wide. I don't know why, that just has felt good on my sacrum. So you all decide what's best for your bodies. And then settle into deep relaxation. Remember, it takes just 4 minutes for us to reset the nervous system. 4 minutes of relaxing deeply in a restorative pose. Let yourself rest. And for a moment, tune back into the heart center. Open that door to the heart and walk back out into that mountain meadow. Walk across the meadow full of wildflowers to the stream. And let yourself sit down next to it. Watch the river of your breath passing by. Feel into the depths of your own heart. And what wishes or prayers of loving kindness would you like to offer yourself before you drift into Shavasana? And after you've made some wishes of loving kindness, walk back through the meadow, step out through the door of the heart, and lay down into your Shavasana. Really let yourself relax into Shavasana. A little more deeply on each exhale. Now gently draw breath deep into the body. Still relaxing on your exhales. Again, see if you can offer yourselves some metta, some maitri, some loving kindness. And begin to move fingers and toes as you do so. And stretch the body open in whatever way feels good. Let yourselves roll over and rest if that sounds comfy. And think for a moment how you're going to integrate this practice with your day. As you slowly unfold yourself and come back up to your comfortable seat. Feel into your own body and being right now. Your physical body, your energy body, your mind, your heart. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we turn whenever we need to towards this wisest self residing inside that always holds loving kindness for us and for others. Namaste. Thank you for class.